Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. If you're familiar with those words, then I'd say you had a pretty good childhood. So as far as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are concerned, a lot of you out there who watch this channel know that that's a franchise that's a bit underserved as far as my content is concerned. But a lot of you have familiarity with it, whether it's regarding the old school cartoon, the toys, the comics, the video games, the movies, whatever it is. And with that, once again, everyone, hello, my name's Ken, and this is a Toy Kennections Online live stream, or TKO, broadcasting to you on this fine weekend, whatever part of the globe and whatever time of day it happens to be, wherever and whenever you are. So, man, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had something of a tough act to follow what was being right on the heels of the big three of the 1980s toys, namely Transformers, Masters of the Universe, and G.I. Joe. And admittedly, by 1987, Masters of the Universe was kind of going downhill, what with the movie and all, and G.I. Joe and Transformers were both still there, but their television presence was kind of ramping down, which of course left the gap open for Turtle Power to show up and take the reins for several years to come. But of course, this stream is only made possible by adding a few Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I call them experts. They call themselves fans. But we'll bring them up on screen here very shortly to talk about this particular franchise and amazing topic. So the first individual is the man, the myth, the legend behind Toy Histories and Unproduced Toys. You know him for his toy hunts, and coming to us with almost 60,000 subscribers, we have the pleasure of adding Ed's Retro Geek Out to Toy Kennections Online. Buddy.
Hey, man. What's up? Thanks for having me over. Hi, everybody in the chat. How are we all doing? Man, that intro is freaking epic. Cobra Lang did that.
He did that, and just I typed it in the chat. I actually grabbed the wrong intro. I have a shorter 30-second intro that I usually do, and then I grabbed the minute-and-a-half one by accident, and I'm like, you know what? It's actually a better introduction. So let's just
the turtles in it. So it's on topic.
It has turtles on it, so it works okay. And this other individual here, he normally comes to us with a wall full of technodromes, but he's changed up his backdrop right now. I believe he said he's in the Navy. So if I got that wrong, he will correct me, and we'll all thank him for his service. But coming to us from the Shellback Toy Rewind channel with, let's get him past 1,000 subs after this stream. We're somewhere really close. Robert, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, man? How you doing? Thanks for having me. Yes, I am in the Navy, by the way.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
I've gotten that wrong before by saying the wrong branch of the military, and the person's like, no, you got to get that right. So I'm like, I know it's important. So, and the final individual here has been giving us a lot of really great content, what with his interviews of company executives from Neca, Super 7, always loves giving us some of the great Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles information out there, both retro as well as modern. Speeky Geeky, welcome to TKO, buddy.
Oh, hello.
Love it.
Hey.
Love it. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I've got like this delay. I'm watching me on the other scene, so I can try and talk to folks in the chat there too. But so like there's delay, and I'm like, I'm not on there yet, but here I am.
That's okay. It happens when I watch on my device as well. It's about 1 second behind my other device that I'm talking to you all on here. And a lot of people may or may not know, but the four of us got together back on Ed's channel back in January. And for some of us, it was the first time we'd gone live specifically on this particular platform. So I just thought, let's get the band back together and have some fun. Now, as far as the band's concerned, which one of us is John, Paul, Ringo, or George? I have no idea. We can fight and argue about that after the stream. But these gentlemen are too young to know who the Beatles are, and technically so am I, but I'm just pretending to be eloquent and smart. So, okay. So I got a list of panel questions lined up for you gentlemen, but just before we say hello to the chat, I just realized that we have now crossed 2,000 subscribers here on Toy Kennections. Literally, like we were at 1999 when I woke up, and we hit 2 while we were backstage, and now we're at like 2001 or 2002 or whatever. But it's because of you folks sharing this link, so owe it to you guys as well. Whatever you need, I got your backs. So anyway, let's say a quick hello to everybody in the chat. We got Anonymous Dude 123. We got Jim Largo, Sergeant Slaughterhouse, Speeky Geeky already on screen as well. Treasure for Trigger. Nolan, Rolando Flores. We got a lot of people here today. Gaz. Yeah, and you know what? This chat jumped, so I probably missed a few names at the very, very top. So I do apologize on behalf of StreamYard's ineptitude on this particular thing. So Nolan, did I say hi to you yet? And thank you very much, Jim and Zazel. All right, gentlemen, lots to talk about today, and I'm just going to go around the table in a clockwise fashion here. So we all have a specific connection to TMNT, like I mentioned in the introduction, with regard to the cartoons, toys, games, movies, comics. What's kind of your main connection to the TMNT franchise, growing up as well as now? Ed, I know you got to go early, so let's start with you, buddy.
For me, it's basically like one of the first things I remember is having like a turtle. Like I think like this Michelangelo is one of the very first ones I ever owned, and like basically from when I can start remembering childhood, I already had turtles. Like in kindergarten, we were playing turtles in the schoolyard and everything. It was just like the most popular thing when I was a kid, so my whole world revolved around it. I'm from Belgium, so I'm from Europe, and my aunt, she lived in Canada, and she would go over to New York and she'd be like, yeah, I saw the turtles there. So to me, like, that world was complete. Like, it was an actual thing, which was insane. And I pretty much just like kept asking for turtles, like up to like 97 or 98 when they would keep them on the shelves. I would just keep getting those. So I guess like almost like an 8-year streak of just me being into turtles, honestly. So that's pretty much my connection, and I've been talking about it for the last couple of years on YouTube.
You think?
Being a fan.
Yeah. No, that's a great story, especially with the international connection, like you said, with your aunt there. Shellback, what about you, buddy?
For me, I'm going to go ahead and say it was the cartoon for sure. I mean, you know, every morning getting ready for school, it's on. Every day after school, it's on. You know, they were so funny. You know, Raph always had me rolling. And it was just kind of hard to explain. It's just like they were everywhere. Like you couldn't avoid them. They were just so popular. Everyone had them. And, you know, of course, I didn't really have any siblings when I was younger. So I had older cousins, and anything that they had, you know, I wanted as well. So they had turtles. So then I had turtles, and it just kind of grew from there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Speeky, what about you? Your connection to the franchise? And
I'd say it's like it was in tandem with probably I think it's definitely started with the cartoons. But I mean, I remember, you know, Saturday mornings, I'd be up, I'd be watching, you know, it's like I'd have my A tier and I had my B tier, and I'm like, I'd sit through others that I, you know, over the years have gotten more, you know, respect and appreciation for. But it was like at the time, I'm like, okay, I'm watching Snorks, I'm watching Kissy Fur, I'm watching all this stuff leading up to like, okay, Turtles is coming. I know this is going to be here soon, and this is going to be, you know, what new mutant are we going to get to see today? And that was really kind of that excitement there. And then kind of, you know, it's like with the toys, it kind of fed into that, right? You had, you know, it's like oftentimes whatever you see on the screen, you'd be getting in toy form around that same time. So you got to like pretend like you were part of the action, you know, and sometimes you'd have your toys with you as you're, you know, playing alongside them as you're watching the cartoon. So that was my earliest memories and interactions with the Turtles. But I think that, you know, like I always wanted to read the comics too, but my parents wouldn't let me read the Mirage ones because they were like, no, this is too adult. I'm like, you know, then why isn't it in the back section? But I mean, you know, like, so I got the Archie comics, and those were a delight. And eventually, as I got older, I read the Mirage ones too. But that was this. I'm kind of going too far here. I'd say yes. Okay.
That's fine.
Cartoon of the Toys were my first interactions.
It was the catchy jingle for the in the commercials that I first saw, and I was like, I wonder what these are, and I couldn't tell how many of them there were. I didn't know how many names there were. I didn't realize there was only 4 turtles. I thought there was like an army of them when I saw the initial the initial commercial. So I was like, oh, this is like G.I. Joe, but it's with turtles. And then I turned it on the cartoon and realized, oh, there's only 4 of them, but that's easier to keep up with them rather than mixing up names and who's who. So yeah, that's and then very quickly after I got the toys, right? So it was like grade 1, and I remember getting the first 3 turtles, and they were all the soft head versions. And then when I got Mikey a few months later, he was the hard head version. And I always wondered that until adulthood what happened. And I guess I heard it was rising production or not enough budget for production, and the rubber heads were cheaper is what I heard. But like I tell people, I'm not a turtles guy by nature. At least in my adulthood, but you guys are all nodding, so I suppose that means I got that fact more or less right. Yeah, so like when compared to like the big 3 toys of the 80s and Star Wars, like basically the predecessors to Ninja Turtles, like how do you think this franchise stacks up in terms of like popularity, pop culture status, the collectorhood? We'll go back around the clockwise direction. Ed?
How is the question? What?
Oh, basically like how you think it stacks up to like the big 3 toys of the 1980s before Turtles came out and Star Wars, like pop culture status, popularity wise, collector wise, because it really had to go right off the heels of the other big franchises, right?
Yeah, I think it just like hit the right note. Like I think like by like 2 years into the toy line, it was like the best selling thing. You can find it anywhere. I think like just the marketing behind it. What was it like? Friedman from. I didn't read up before we did this interview.
That's all good.
What is it? Is it search licensing? No, you know Shellback. You know who it is. I'm talking about. The guy who actually went over to Mirage Comics and he said that.
Right, yeah.
Laird, like, hey, I want to put these guys out. I'm gonna make like this
the 5th turtle.
Like this big turtle. I'm gonna shop it around.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna get you a deal.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
He didn't just get them a deal to do toys, but he got them to do everything, like from birthday cups to like cereal to everything. And like just the strange the strange stories behind it, like how the shells came out. If they would have reached out to him like 2 months later, the movie was already going and they would have never done it. So there's like so many strange things that happened and were just third party people playing with the IP and turning it into something great just because it was so popular, which really turned it into Turtle Mania and like the pop culture phenomenon we know it as now, looking back at it, you know. How does it stack up to the other ones? I think you definitely had He-Man Mania and G.I. Joe. To me, at least I didn't really experience it, but it was long lasting, G.I. Joe, and it did really well for a long period of time. I don't think it had the peak that like a He-Man or Turtles had. Transformers, that just came up in like the mid 80s, right?
84, yeah, it was basically when it came out, yeah.
So they really shot up going into that, and I don't know. I think it definitely like took over like a part of the early 90s, the Turtles.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. So
cool.
Is that an answer you're looking for?
That's a great answer. I know it's getting towards dinner time where you are, so you're probably getting a little probably need a bit of a snack.
I think like one of the key things in there is the guy that did the licensing for Turtles or took it over. He definitely hooked up with the right people and set these things in motion that just kept feeding the interactions to children and stuff to create that. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Shellback, what about you?
I think his name is Mark Friedman, by the way, for
Yes,
that guy.
I think it is.
Just like Ed, I had a kind of a little trouble answering this question. Of course, I'm going to say TMNT, you know, above all of them. But they're all so different and so unique. You know, all these lines speak to different kids and yet speak to all kids. But for me, the Turtles, it was just sort of like their uniqueness, their grittiness. At least that was it for me. And G.I. Joe and He-Man, I had some, but they were kind of like hand-me-downs. I never really got really into those. They were just sort of footnotes to my TMNT. Sometimes I would incorporate them, you know, as villains or whatever. But you know, for the most part, you know, it was all TMNT. And like I said, I really didn't have that much growing up. So, and I don't know, I was born in '85. So I was, you know, there for the majority of the TMNT, but I think that's sort of kind of the tail end of the, you know, when I'm hitting 5, 6, that's sort of the kind of the tail end of the He-Man era and G.I. Joe stuff. So I kind of just missed that stuff, I think. But yeah, like I said, I think is, you know, like I said, for me, the TMNT is obviously, you know, the best out of all those, but, you know, to each his own. Again,
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, to me, being born in '82, I kind of missed the tail end of Star Wars, right? So it kind of ramped up into like the late peak of Joe and Transformers. Like they were already transitioning into TMNT, and I caught that like 2-year gap before. But when you're 4 years old, you kind of know what you want, and you kind of don't. You know, in '86 and by '88, I definitely know what I want, right? So, Speeky, Mr. Speeky, waiting patiently. Why don't you weigh in on this subject?
Well, a handful of things. First of all, happy almost 40th, I guess. If you're 82, right? That would be this
turned 40 in February.
Well,
right, so.
Happy belated 40th.
Same month this channel got monetized, actually. So it's actually a pretty good month overall.
Oh, heck yeah. It's a nice gift. I'd say, so here's the thing. There were some like connector parts to all of those series in different regards, right? If you look at like Errol McCarthy as an example, right? He was doing the concept art for Masters of the Universe, and he was doing concept art for the designs for some of the TMNT figures. So it's like you have that crossover, you know. So I think that I liked the G.I. Joe cartoon. I liked you know, Transformers. I got into neither of those as much as you know, TMNT didn't. It was the one that kind of really connected in. I liked that the dynamic there. It was more relatable to me in that it was like, here's this family dynamic, and that was, to me, was like, okay, I can, you know, I had a younger brother. I could be like, okay, you're Raphael today, you know, and so like there's this element of like it's easier. It was easier for me, and I had a couple other siblings too, so we just would all like kind of just role play. It was neat. It was fun. But I liked G.I. Joe. I liked Transformers. I love Masters of the Universe. Masters of the Universe was like another one of my go-to favorites. Same thing with Thundercats, that's not what we're talking. We're not talking Thundercats yet. So
we can though. We can in a bit.
I mean,
I'll open up the floor and towards the end, and we can definitely talk whatever you like after. So.
I'll say
talk about it now. I'm easy.
Well, I'll say this too. Ghostbusters was another big one of mine that I loved, and also the Filmation Ghostbusters, which is I'm finding there's not as many folks that are like as diehard into that as I am. I'm like, you know, Primeval. Are you kidding me? There's some great characters there. So I love the designs on that. That was kind of like honestly more than the Filmation Ghostbusters for the kind of connected in with me a little bit further. Again, I'm sidetracking, but TMNT. I'd say for me it was, you know, how it compares was one of my favorites. It's obviously, you know, I mean, in modern day too, it's still something I find that what I love about that series is that with each new iteration, there's something there for for new demographics, right? So, you know, if one isn't your cup of tea, you're going to find it somewhere else because there is something there for everybody. And, you know, and for some like me, you find it in all of it. So, yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, like you said, you had a little brother who could play a specific character. Like if you wanted to be Raphael, I know that was just an example, but the one thing I never understood as a kid with Raphael, even though he was my first turtle, is he looked like he just had like shorter swords than Leonardo. And it took me until adulthood to realize that a sai is used differently. It's like more of a stabbing weapon, you know, and it's sparingly used as a ranged weapon. You know, like no, it's not meant to go up against a katana, and I never really clicked with me. And I remember getting into an argument with a kid at school because it was my first turtle and I just wanted to like him. And the kid at school was like, no, he sucks because he just has a short sword. And I'm like, yeah, but, and I didn't know what to say after the but until I was an adult. And I'm like, when someone comes up behind you with a sigh, good luck. Right. So, yeah, well, sounds like all of you got varying experiences and like varying, like everyone's mileage varies with Ninja Turtles depending when you were born, where you lived. And I know Ed said a moment ago, like for example, G.I. Joe wasn't super popular in other parts of the world, and it definitely in Southeast Asia, where a lot of my relatives are from, it wasn't popular there. But in Canada, for example, G.I. Joe fever took over. But it felt like with Turtles, it was very global. It's arguable whether or not it hit the same peak as the other toy lines, but it's still very prominent to this day, which is the next thing I wanted to touch upon is that a lot of people are going to jump in now. Like you look behind me, I got wrestlers on this side, G.I. Joes on that side, Transformers over there. There's some turtles up here, and I've got a Super 7 Shredder that I still got to open. But like some people, like they kind of want to transition into turtles as an adult, and we got NECA, we got Super 7, we got Vintage. If you gentlemen have any recommendations for people trying to make the transition over, I'd love to hear them. That's basically my next question. I've just rephrased it in a way that makes more sense. Ed, we'll start back with you about what are the recommendations you got for people trying to jump into Turtles now?
Trying to jump into Turtles now.
Like if someone wanted to start collecting Turtles today, Super 7, NECA, Vintage.
Well,
what you got for tips of the trade?
I'm really not into like the new stuff, like the
I know
or the Super
Yeah.
stuff, and I think like the Super
I know,
7
but-
stuff is pretty epic the way it looks, but
pricey.
I have a couple, and it's just like, yeah, okay. I think like
Sure.
like there's a ton of turtles out there. You know, if you want one, you just have to hit up a couple flea markets and pick it up. You know, you can probably find like the ones, like the classics you want. You can probably find them for a couple bucks. It shouldn't be too hard. But like if you start collecting it and you start chasing like the pretty expensive ones, that stuff has just gone up so much in the last 4 years. It's like a scary move to make to start collecting those. But like the basic first 3 years should be pretty okay to find and source if you're into that. Apart from that, like if you want quality and like cool looking toys, depending on whether you had the toys back in the day, I'd say go for Super 7 stuff. It's amazing how it looks, how it works, how it's produced. And if you're more into like the cartoons or the movies, go into the NECA stuff. If you're already like a NECA collector, it'll be an easy switch. But I guess that would be the way to go about it. But just go for vintage.
Sure. I had a feeling you might say that, but I had to throw the question out there.
That's just me. I'm really not into like the new stuff.
Yeah, I sold my box Turtle Lair a few years ago, and I regret it now. So
I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Shellback, what about you? I know you're into both modern and vintage. So
Right. I mean, it's kind of hard to pass up on those Super 7 Ultimates. They're based off the figures. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like we see those nowadays as we saw the original figures as kids. So it's like the ultimate version. So of course, you know, NECA and Super 7 both put out really good products. They both look really, really cool. I personally, I started collecting NECA, and then I got, you know, the first couple sets, and they just kept coming and coming and coming. I was like, okay, I gotta kind of reel this back in. So I kind of stopped collecting NECA and focused just on the Super 7 Ultimates. And I figured that would be enough for me, at least. Not to say that I don't want, you know, the new 2-packs that NECA puts out, but they're pretty hard to find at times. A lot of scalpers with those, so it's just kind of a headache, kind of finding them, paying for them, and stuff like that. So I kind of gave up on that and just strictly went to Super 7. But Ed is correct. If you're starting out, definitely go with vintage first, if you can find them. You know, garage sales, estate sales, swap meets, flea markets. You got to look everywhere for those things. They can be pretty hard to find at times. So, you know, Macari, you know, offer up. It's a all hands on deck when you're first starting out, or it's, you know, you can kind of take your time and just take whatever falls in your lap, you know.
Like the reissues, if you're able to get those, the recent retro carded ones. So yeah, Mr. Geeky, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it depends what you are, you know, what floats your boat, I suppose. I mean, that's a nice thing, is there's so many different options there. So I think that, you know, from a price point, you know, what Ken was just saying with the, you know, with the reissues, those are much more affordable, you know, in terms of, you know, just as like they are, and it's neat because they get them in these like fun new boxes too that are, you know, I just saw the superhero themed one, which is cool. And that's like not gonna break the bank necessarily having to pick those up. The thing is, what I'll say with the, you know, Super 7 and with NECA, you know, there's a lot of detail there. There's a lot of tooling there. There's a lot of fun little nods that are there for the you know, for the fans, and it shows. So it just depends what your favorite version is, right? So and you could have lots of different versions for, you know, with NECA, where they're doing the Fred Wolf. I mean, those are spot on from the cartoon. If you like the cartoon, you're getting, I mean, like, it's basically like the cartoon come to life, right? Super 7, there's some fantastic, it's like it's adding in a lot of new layers to the original figures, but do also bringing in some new pieces that we've never seen before too, like Gorilla as an example, is one that I'm like, yeah, that's when I mean, from TMNT magazine back in the day, it was like, wouldn't it be cool to have that character as well? And I was like, I know, you know, it's not Sergeant Bananas, but it also is like, you know, now that we have that tooling there too, you know, that's coming down the road. And so to me, I just is kind of like, it's like the extra nod for the fans there, for the longtime fans, is like, I really appreciate that. So, but if you're just coming into figures, you know, there's a whole lot of options there too. I mean, this Mezco's doing them. They just, and those look kind of neat. They got, I'm trying to think. Loyal Subjects has, you know, some smaller price pointed figures there too, although those creeped up a little bit. But they're doing some neat deeper dives on that end as well. I'm sure I'm forgetting, and there's some great customizers too, but those are a little more expensive.
I was gonna say that's like another category. Like I'll be like hesitant to buy like a Super 7 one or like a NECA pack, but I'll throw down like $150 on like a retro styled new type of art toy created by Emo Creations or Emo Adventures. He does like freaking amazing stuff. Chivaho Creations. Is that one of them?
I'll bring you up on solo layout here.
All right, it's a toy. I got the Toy Snobs plush of Krang.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I was so excited for that. Sorry, didn't mean to.
No, that's totally fine. I just when you pointed at it, I was like, what's he pointing at? I gotta see. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
You were saying something,
Yeah.
Ed.
Yeah, just like that's like a whole different thing to me, where I will throw down that money just because I want to see it get made. Sometimes it's like an unproduced thing that they try to bring back, and you can actually have it in toy form, or it's just like new creations, but they're like the way they used to do it, like Anaglyph Studios would have made it, or Varner Studios. So that seems more fun to me than, like, I'd rather see an interpretation of those from one of those cartoons than what Neca's doing with the cartoon style stuff. Even though it looks great, but like, to me, it'll always be like these type of toys I want to get. Yeah,
Totally fair. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You want to jump in there, Speeky?
Oh, I was saying, like that Jaguar and the belly bomb. I'm trying to, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The name is
the Foot Toys.
There you go, the Foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a great job, and that's like in that style, which is, so it's like the first time you get to have Jaguar, you get to have Dreadmon, right, in that same kind of look and feel, which we've never had. Which is
and some have even done like Nocturno, who was like made by
Hensey,
Scott
right?
Hensey.
Yeah,
and they got a hold of the mold and started recreating it, and you could have actually had that. Like, there's even a guy who commissioned him to make the Star Wars sketches based on the Turtles, and he created it for him solely. So I mean, there's guys that have some pictures, they start recreating it, and you could actually own some of that. So it's just crazy cool stuff.
So cool.
But it's like, it depends on how deep you're in like the turtle wormhole, and like what interests you.
Right.
More than others.
If you're just stepping into it, it might not be like the ideal way to start with it. Like, oh, I have 2 figures and I'm $300 down.
I need to get my Michelangelo first. We're talking Uncanny Trio. We're talking
quarter scale, NECA movie style. We got an interesting one here in the chat. Whoever wants to take this question, comment on one of the following topics: Netflix rise of TMNT 2, Revenge of the Shredder game, Cowabunga video game collection, or Last Ronin comic. I'm out of this question because I only played the video games, and I mostly just remember the Turtles 2 arcade games. So
why just on one of those topics? Why not all of those topics?
All right, there we go. Let's put you back on solo layout right about it now.
Take it away, Speeky.
Man, I mean, just generically comment on them. I mean, I liked. I mean, the movie was great. I thought that they did a really good job with the rise of the TMNT, the new film that came out. That was like, I was pretty blown away with the animation. I was blown away with just like how it was very. It felt like an extension of, just the overarching series, if that makes sense. It really helped tie in, the rise of the TMNT series into where it was going and progressing from, the entire time there, but also fits in really well with, I think, a lot of the other iterations now, which was really fun to see that. And also Casey was great. And I think I was like, I'm a big Casey Jones fan, and that was fun to see that. On the Shredder video game, I was down a rabbit hole for a straight on month afterwards. Just like I was like, I need to get all the story mode stuff done, and I need to be able to get all the unlockable characters, and I need to, it's like, even though some of those tasks are really hard to do, and it became like, the original Battletoads game where I'm like, I throw down the controller, just frustrated, but it was really fun, and I'm like, it's pretty obvious to me too that it's like there's some DLCs that we're gonna get down the road too. Like, how are we not gonna get the punk frogs? You're not gonna create those characters with the weapons there, showing them with the weapons, unless you're planning to reskin them on other stuff. They're coming.
Yeah, because they're like the trophies you find in
they're show right. They show up in multiple parts of that game. So and then There was one other question on there too. It was Netflix and game, and what was the other one? Oh, Last Ronin. Last Ronin was a blast. And then they've got the new. It sounds like there's 2 new series, right? There's like a prequel, and then there's like a continuation, from my understanding. So I gotta just like not talk too much because I don't want to give any kind of spoilers. But it's a really good read. It's a read that was like decades in the making, so that's also really fun. And then it gives some nice closure on some things, and then also tease it up for some really cool new things without being less than vague on what those things
That's okay. It's always hard with spoilers, especially with like television shows where someone's not quite caught up with the latest one yet, and something big happens in the most recent episode. I'm going through that right now as I'm behind on some series. Yeah. Been asked here thoughts on Ace Duck. I thought he was a Disney character. If not for the if not for the Turtles packaging, I would have thought he was a Disney character.
Don't you mean Howard the Duck?
There we go. And I think maybe that's why I got a little confused.
I still gotta watch the Netflix thing. But
Yeah,
I did
same.
play the Shredder's Revenge because we drove up to Denmark. It was like an 8-hour drive, so I started playing it then. Still gotta get the Cowabunga collection and Last Ronin. I'm hoping I can finish it because Kevin Eastman is coming over to Belgium in like around Halloween. So I'm hoping I get to meet him at the Comic-Con and yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's the first time I'd be like standing in line to get something signed. I still got to figure out what am I going to bring along. But yeah, very cool. The Last Ronin thing. So
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I wasn't super impressed with the Rise when it first came out. I thought it was sort of kind of all over the place. I did watch the Netflix movie with my son just to make sure and get him into Turtles one way or another. I did like the movie. It was done a lot better. So hopefully, I was, like I said, I was kind of disappointed with the cartoon. So hopefully that'll, maybe they'll make another season of that or something like that. The video games, I haven't got to that yet. My son keeps asking me for it every day. He plays my arcade, the 1-Up TMNT. So, he's all about that. He's like, oh, there's a new one. Let's get that. So I got to get that for him, and then we can play that. And I haven't read the Last Ronin yet. Like I said, I've been kind of not in TMNT as much as I should have been lately. So I've been kind of transitioning, Navy, getting out and jobs and stuff like that. So
Fair enough.
I wonder if you could mod your 1-Up to have the Shredder's Revenge on there, so you could play it with your son on that.
Right. I'm sure there's a way.
We got to exchange friend codes too, by the way. We'll have to get a game of.
For movies, the one that really stuck with me was the 2007 TMNT, one which I know was kind of a spiritual sequel, but not a full sequel. The animated one there, because it played up the rivalry between sort of the role model older brother in Leo and the sort of rebellious younger brother in Raph. That's what I really liked about that.
Mm-hmm.
That particular one. Jim Largo asks, any other crossovers we'd like to see with popular IPs? I was introduced to crossovers during the Power Rangers in Space time with the 5th Turtle. And I was watching that because of Power Rangers in Space. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's a new Turtle show. So I don't know. When I think of crossovers with Turtles, my mind goes there and the very annoying Venus Turtle. So I don't know how the rest of you feel about that.
Well, with Next Mutation or with crossovers, because there's a lot of crossovers that they're doing pretty well now. Like the TMNT Batman is an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like the movie there and the comics there were fantastic.
I heard.
I think you'd enjoy. But and the Power Rangers one was fun too. I'm hoping with this new series we'll actually. I don't know. The thing with that is like I want to see you know, some versions of kaiju fighting with, you know, or the TMNT like kaiju'd up, if that makes sense. Where that was always the fun part for me, was like getting to see the giant robots and the giant monsters going at it. And that's you know, we saw again, I don't want to do spoilers, so I'm not gonna let's see what we saw, but I want to see more monsters. You know,
totally okay.
Yeah. There of crossovers that I'd like to see, there's a lot. And there's a lot that in my mind make a lot of sense. So you know, to me, a TMNT Masters of the Universe crossover is a natural, and we had that in you know, Heroes of the Forgotten Sewer. Or Warriors are here. It's one. I usually remember. Today I'm questioning it.
It's like Lord of the Rings,
TMNT
right?
X-Men, that'd be good.
Yeah. It was kind of like Lord of the, they had Spellcaster Splinter. You had Raphael. You had you know, there was like Leonardo as he had his lion or his saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, like the Battle Cat.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
That felt more like Battle Cat indeed. But yeah, like Shellback saying, like X-Men would have been great. Like,
X-Men
definitely in the 90s, like just because they're also mutants.
Exactly.
I would say TMNT and Bucky O'Hare would be a cool one too.
Yeah. Or just like the other Playmates toy lines, like Toxic Crusader, Skeleton Warriors.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of love for Toxic Crusaders in the chat right now.
Yeah.
So yes.
Have you guys seen this, by the way? I did an interview with this guy, so I know about this before, but this is like, it's called Galactic Rodents and Mayhem, and it is like all these it's all these nods to like Easter eggs for 80s and 90s cartoons. So like we see there's a character that's like, it's like the TMNT linked up with Bucky O'Hare. It's really freaking cool. Not to plug that, but I mean, but it is. It's a great. It made me think of that because we're talking about all the different crossover stuff where it's like, okay, that it covers that a little bit. You can scratch that itch.
That's what I liked about the IDW comics. They did like that Transformers G.I. Joe crossover comic that seemed to be focused on the way the toys looked. So I actually got those because it just looked so freaking cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I always thought that a natural crossover, just because you got a quartet, and a quartet was real Ghostbusters. Because for me, when I saw 4 turtles hanging out with April, I thought about the 4 Ghostbusters hanging out with Janine. I'm not sure why. It was just kind of a natural progression. One question that I wanted to ask for any of you or all of you is there like a quintessential piece of like Turtles media? Because like, is there something that's like really, really viral out there that just recommend everybody to watch, read? Because for me with Transformers, right, the 1986 movie with all the rock and roll music and the death of Optimus, no, that's not a spoiler, right? Everybody should know that.
Whoa, what?
For G.I. Joe fans, a lot of people point back to the original Larry Hama run, which admittedly I've only seen a few issues of. Like, I'll just randomly throw out there, like wrestling. A lot of people will come back to like what the day Hogan slammed Andre. Like, is there a Turtles equivalent to that? Because for me, it's Vanilla Ice's voice that like transcended the decades for some reason.
To me, it would be the first movie.
Okay,
maybe it's just like nostalgia goggles, but I think that's like just an insanely well done movie based on like a comic book or something like that. Before you had Batman, and then they tried Dick Tracy, but I think like just the grittiness of Turtles, or like how dark that movie is. It's done so well. And then of course, like the second one, they went with a more cartoony vibe to it, but that first one, damn, that's just a great movie overall. And the way they did like all the ninja acting and like the martial arts in there, I just love that one. So I definitely like just show them like, well, because that was like the problem when they transitioned to the cartoon. Like you had kids that were playing the RPG game and they were like older and they maybe read the comics that were a little bit grittier and stuff, and they were drinking beer in there and everything. And then they came up with the cartoon like, oh, we can't play this. This is for kids. But that first movie was pretty dark and still cool, really sci-fi. So I'd say like just start out with that one. You have to have seen that one because it's great.
Yeah. Not start with part 3, huh?
Ooh,
I love part 3.
Part 3 is good, but I mean,
I love it.
It's not. No, part 3 was fun in its own right. I think it's just that, I mean, like if you're trying to get a sense for the Turtles, you're definitely gonna want to start with part 1. Just
I thought Tatsu, the character of Tatsu there, would have been a really good lieutenant for the cartoon if they managed to bring him over. Because I know they played up more of the Shredder and Krang thing, right? But it would have been cool to have somebody like Crack the Whip on Bebop and Rocksteady out there who wasn't Shredder. You know, I don't know, just my.
Yeah, I think like Tatsu is just like a way of, oh, we don't have to have a guy in a suit because he can just be that lieutenant type guy.
Dude, and he was vicious too. I mean, that was that.
And like in the games afterwards, like in Hyperstone Heist, he's like a tough cookie, you know. Yeah.
Have you guys seen the I know my answer was originally going to be either the original cartoon or the movie, but like 5 years ago they came out with these I don't know if you can see these, but it was the Neca summer shorts. Like I said, it was about 5 years ago. But they only did a couple of them, and to me, I absolutely love those things. I thought that was really cool. They did it in like a really different style. I thought they were really funny. So I just was wondering if you guys had seen those yet, or anybody in the chat had seen those. And I was like, why did they not make more of those?
Those are great. Though there's the anime feeling one where they did that was fantastic. And then I liked that one the best, and I liked the other one that was where it did the future. It almost felt like After the Bomb a little bit, and where they had it was a lot more. Again, I'm all about the mutants, and it was like a lot more mutant-y in that one. So, but they were all, yes, they were great.
I also really liked TMNT Forever.
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That just like piecing together like this multiverse of like the different ways they tried reincarnating and reinvigorating the toy line and just the IP through that one movie. But yeah, I went into watching that being like, yeah, it'll be okay, but actually really liked it.
It was done really well.
Yes, I'm very much on board for TMNT Forever.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of like what to start on, I think I would concur with TMNT, the first movie, as a good jumping on point. I would also, depends what age you are too. I mean, I was a kid when I saw TMNT, the first movie, so it's like, I can't, it was very adult when we wwere kids, but when we were kids, we also had a lot of stuff that felt more adult than what feels kid-like now, if that makes sense. So it felt like a natural. I would say the 2012 series too is a good, a good gateway. There was a lot of great stories there. It was kind of like, just like Turtles Forever was kind of homogenization of all the different iterations. 2012 felt like, one style that they're doing that with, right? And it was like you're borrowing from Mirage, you're borrowing from, the Fred Wolf, you're borrowing from 2003 a bit there too. It felt really just kind of a love letter, and that was it plays really nicely. So I'd say Turtles Forever, but also I'd add on 2012 to the mix there too.
So 2012 over the early 2000s cartoon and release.
You're saying the 2018, the Rise? Or
Well, there was an early 2000s turtle.
Oh, the
series.
CGI.
Yes.
Yeah. The animated. Yeah, I like that one, but I wouldn't necessarily, in my mind, I wouldn't put it over 2012. It's still very much holds a place in my heart for sure. And it was like I loved that they had Winter in that as well, and they had a bigger role in that as well as like the Stone Soldiers. But it's yeah, I mean, by the end of this, I'm just going to be like, watch everything. Just start on everything.
Yeah.
Because I can't, like, here's the thing. It's all good. I just can't, it's like ranking it. I got to put it like a tiered rank list on how, but it's only my own personal view, not everybody's.
That's why I have you folks on here, because if I got asked the same question, like, I'm scatterbrained enough as it is, so I figured just throw some of the load on you folks. But like, if you look at like the likeness of the turtles, right? Like my first thought goes to the cartoon style. So obviously, like I tend to like that Neca look, like that cartoon Neca look, right? But then the toys we had as kids didn't quite look like that, so you kind of gravitate towards anything super 70, right? But at the same time, I was thinking as well that like the first Turtles movie. I remember the day I went to see it in theater, right? I think we were like literally like the third row, and I was a bit scared because the screen's so big when you're that close and you're that, you're a kid. But then those likenesses are different as well. So like if you collect multiple lines of turtles, you kind of got the toy likeness, the movie likeness, the cartoon likeness, and it's like the good thing is you have your options, but it's the same cast of characters every single time. They don't rebrand and then like recast somebody else in a leading role or do something completely different. Like, like with the Snake Eyes movie with Henry Golding Snake Eyes, a lot of people would say, not my Snake Eyes, right? You don't see a lot of hashtags, not my turtles. I don't know about you guys, but I don't, or do you see that?
I mean, everyone's got their own, I'd say people gravitate towards what they think of as their favorite version, right? I mean, I'm not of that because I see the value and everything that they bring, extra layers they add in the mythos, But I mean, I remember for a while people weren't, so into, Venus, and it's, it's like I'm like, but hold on a second. There's a lot of potential with Venus, and now with IDW they brought her back in. It's in a really kind of unique way that's fun. I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of iterations where it may not have, that specific feel may not have been for everybody, but at the same time, it doesn't negate how cool some of those characters were. And like, I think of that iteration, I'm like, we need to see more Silver. We need to see more Dragon Lord. We need, we need to see, like Steelbone, right? Steelbone, something like that. It was very close. He was a fun one too. I could see that it's almost like a live action Rat King almost. There's some, even with Rise, right, where that wasn't for everybody, but there were some characters there that are like, fit right in with the Fred Wolf. Like if you look at Hypnopotamus, or you look at what's his name, Ghost Bear, right? Some of those characters are like, it's like they could very easily migrate over to Fred Wolf, and you would never know they were never there, if that makes sense. So what was the question again?
I don't think there was one. We're in open panel season right now. My piece of paper with the questions is completely turned over. So like, if you wanted to show that what we talked about before the stream, if you wanted to jump into that right now.
Oh, what? Just the deep dive stuff. I mean,
whatever you wanted to, yeah.
Well, I mean, some of that, I guess that would make sense if you have. I sent you a couple pictures. So one of them, if you want to throw up the TMNT one, that could be fun.
Do you have it with you? Like you could just click share down at the bottom if you want. If not, I could pull up your Instagram.
No, it's not. It would be in the message from Instagram. It's that's what an upcoming deep dive I'm doing is kind of imagining that with some of those other characters from different iterations, and what that would look like if it were Fred Wolf. So, and Hypnopotamus is one of those. I think I have Sally Pride in there, Moycat from what's this from Las Tortugas Ninjas. And there's Chien Khan from Archie series there too. Who, I mean, so yeah, I had the artist. I'm just going to describe it because I don't have the picture in front of me now. I can try and get as Ken, if you're able to get that, then I can just
I'll try to do that.
I'll keep talking in circles until.
Yeah, I'm glad he's here, man.
Yeah, there's no stopping me. Once I start going, it's some fun stuff, and I mean the thing is that there are characters there that I would have always loved to have had as figures that we just never saw in that way. And it's neat because we're in this time where it's like kind of the sky's the limit. You know, it is both an expensive time to be a collector, but also a really fun time in that it's just kind of like the stuff that we would, you know, have imagine in our minds where we never thought we'd necessarily get a Tora, you know, from the arcade, but like that's a possibility. We could potentially have a Tora figure at some point. We could potentially have, a Shogun figure or, and that's really neat.
Do you think there's a big enough market for characters like that?
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
I think there is. Oh, Chilla. Okay, so this is the different one.
This is a different one. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay too. This is for an upcoming deep dive I've got that's on Thundercats, and that was kind of fit into that where it's like here's Lunatax. Were one of the iterations. We never saw the Lunatax figures. There was a Red Eye that was going to be in that we saw the prototype for. We saw like it was listed in the advertisements, but it never came out. And you know, to me that was kind of like a unforgivable because Lunatax were in so many episodes, right? Like we had it's kind of the same thing with like Mandora, right? Now finally we got Mandora. But it's some of these characters that were just they're so much a part of that series. How we've never been able to get them. And that's what I go into there a bit as to here's the history. And also, you know, let's make this. So, do I think that there's the question to Shellback there? Do I think there's or was it Shellback you asked that or did Ken ask that? But yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, you are still playing the one-up, right? And you're still playing with you probably are familiar with those characters. And I mean, I think that, you know, with the resurgence of some of these things back into the zeitgeist of things, you know, more and more people are discovering it for the first time. Like the Cowabunga collection, that's a whole new generation of folks who have never seen TMNT that are now, you know, this version of TMNT that are getting to play it and interact with it. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if those figures were there to interact with on that other level? You know, so
good point.
So I think, yeah, I do think there's the market for that. And I think especially because of just how well crafted some of these things are now too. It's like, there's the collector market of people who have been wanting these characters for decades now, who I think if something like that came out, they'd jump on it. I mean, that would be me. But, you know, there's also, I think a lot of new generations here that could be their favorite character. You know, you know, they're discovering they like to play against that character. There's a cool villain. Tora in particular had those giant boulders, right? I mean, they had the Frosty the Hitman. You know, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that you could add in with it. That's just like very toyetic.
My worry was just, you know, the market's just so saturated with so much TMNT and the collectors just have only so much money, you know, to put towards a collection. And it's just, I feel like, you know, those types of characters, you know, might get, you know, pushed to the back or, you know, down the line and stuff like that. So I was just kind of wondering.
Because I wanted to ask Shellback, because you've been doing some really high-end whatnot sales during summer, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
How is that? Is that just like collectors that have been in it for a long time, or like new guys trying to get into it? Because like it's insane, and I think like what you do get to do with the whatnot is go into like a really controlled environment of bidding and knowing this is going to be like quality that you're going to get.
Right. Yeah, it's both, you know. Old collectors, new collectors, you know, you get a lot of people in there. That's, you know, part of the fun of it. You know what I mean? It's sort of kind of, kind of a live stream, or it is, but I mean, with collectors and stuff like that, you get into talks with people, and obviously I just do TMNT, but there's all kinds of other people do all kinds of sales on there, but it's fun. I've sort of kind of stopped doing Whatnot, at least for now, because the money just wasn't really in it. Like, you kind of sort of break even on things, you kind of, sometimes you can pick things up for a good price and resell them and sort of kind of make a little bit, but the fees and stuff on there, just like eBay,
I was gonna say, yeah, is it
Yeah,
as bad
you're
as
like
eBay?
never really sure what you're
right.
gonna
What's
like,
coming in, what's going out. It's just
Mhm.
like, and then it's like you're also collecting at the same time, so it's like you're keeping a lot of the stuff that we're maybe gonna sell. It's like, well, I kind of want to keep this, and then it just doesn't really work.
Yeah, and it's a good thing though that you stuck to selling stuff that you like, because I have tables at toy shows as well, and I once went into a thrift shop, and I didn't know what I was looking at. This was many years ago now, and I picked up off the pegs a little baggie with April O'Neil that looked like April O'Neil, but her clothes were green. Right. So naturally, I didn't know what I'm looking at. I'm thinking, why is this green? And then, I'm like, okay, I buy it for like $2.99 Canadian or whatever. And I go home and I go, this is the Channel 6 news van version. This is the rarer version. Right. Yep. And I didn't mark it up too much. I sold it to another Turtles fan here locally, just made a little bit on it. But I know that was one of those, like, it was a blind spot for me. And if you're selling something that you're not that familiar with, obviously I found out what it was after, but if you're selling something you're not familiar with, it can be hard to know what your margin should be. You go too high, everyone knows you don't know anything. You go too low, you become the sucker,
Exactly. Yep.
So you go too low for your friends, it's okay, because you got some slack with them. You go right in the middle, it's hard. You have to hit that balance, right?
Yep. Really
difficult. So yeah. Anyway.
And it's you put a value on something, this person puts a different value on it, but on Whatnot, it's the value is what they pay. I mean, the bid only goes up to what, someone's willing to pay. So it's in there, it's very difficult to kind of, I mean, you can kind of set the price for them and say, hey, this is what I want, but people like to bid. So people get into a bidding war, and then it might get up to that price that you want, or it might stall out. And my last one, I did an invisible Mikey with 2 accessories. He did have his foot was damaged. But I mean, it sold for like $56, which, anybody that knows, Turtles, invisible Mikeys are, going up and up and up. Yeah. So, I mean, I was like,
yeah, you're stuck as a seller, but you kind of like create, I guess, when going into one of those sales, like, this is the whole thing. I want to make sure I get this amount. So it doesn't depend on solely on the items, but it's more of like the completeness, the complete sales of everything. Like, some stuff will go for more than you had anticipated, some will go for less, but it does hurt when like, oh well, you got a really good deal on it.
There's a good deal and there's giving it away, and I've had that happen.
I guess that just feeds into like the saturation part, because I mean, like people are spending money on it, but when there's a deal like that, which could have gone up to probably 80 and 90, still be a good deal for a collector, like $56, that's just stealing at this point for something like that.
Especially when you got the fees on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that some of the higher prices on those vintage have gone up in, like, I mean, because you have these higher end figures that are out there now, so it's like, okay, well, I'd spend that on a figure. So, but this is my version that I enjoy. So this is I'm happier spending that on this specific version. Do you think that plays into that a little bit in terms of, besides just the passing of time and supply and demand, right? But I don't know. I wonder. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. I'm just wondering that.
That's why we're here, though, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, someone in the chat asked, does anyone have something they're missing in their collection? And Speeky, you mentioned Scratch the Cat. for me, even my 4 main turtles are the 2012 classics versions, which was the best at the time. So once I got that, I thought I didn't need anything else, right? I kept that mentality, and then NECA came out, and then Super 7 came out, and now I'm looking at the vintage. So I'm missing basically everything, right? And to Shellback's point earlier, there's only so much money to go around, right? I look around me, and I've already, spent an inexplicably shameful amount as it is, let alone to be like, okay, I'm going to go into turtles as well. And I said something on the Geek Dad Life Discord as well. Some of the people in that Discord chat are here in this chat. And I said, yeah, I'm thinking about diving into a few Super 7 turtles. And everyone's like, don't you have enough on the go? And I'm like, well, yeah, but, ask a drunk. Ask me when I'm drinking if I want one more round, right? The only thing stopping me is the bloatedness of my stomach, my bladder, and the fact I'm going to pass out. My desire says chug, 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 right? So,
Right.
right. And why you got to be so mean, Phil?
Yes.
Why you got to be so mean, Phil? Yeah, simple solution, right? then there's a bit of money for turtles, right? I'll just sell all of them and buy a Scratch the Cat. Just go that way, right?
I've had to sell some of my stuff recently. I've sold some complete vehicles and stuff like that, to get other things, or just put back in the bank account. Sometimes, it's just sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure, right? And there's some expensive ones. Has Hotspot gone up a lot in price lately relative to like Scratch the Cat, or is he still quite far off?
They've both gone up, and people are asking some outrageous numbers for Scratch. I've seen complete hotspots for $1,200, and complete scratches go for
What?
35. 3,500.
I passed on a hotspot for like 125 Canadian back about 4 years ago because I just look, I'm not even buying turtles much now, let alone back then, right? I wished I just picked it up just for the sake of it, because when you have a holy grail like you get like the Wonder Bread He-Man, there's a likeness to the He-Man character. And sorry, Ed, I just saw we're past the top of the hour. Did you need to get the family?
Yeah, like in 5 minutes.
Okay, you're good. You're good for a minute. Yeah. So you look at the Wonder Bread He-Man, and that's got a likeness to regular He-Man, but it's like in the Conan type colors, right? Something like Scratch the Cat, it doesn't really harken to anything. So what's people's connection to Scratch the Cat?
The rarity.
That's it.
You can't. Well, you can find them, but it's. I don't know. Yeah, it's
a way lower production run.
Yeah,
yes.
I think he came out in '93, which wasn't at the tail end of the toy line. You still had enough years when it was kind of declining, but it was pretty much still prime time TMNT. So people knew about it, but the production run on the Brigback was just so low compared to all the 1,000 other sublines they were doing with the Star Trek and everything. It was just we're gonna quit that because we're not working together with the Archie stuff anymore and all that. And then obviously I think the second part where it got really pushed is when Toy Hunter, when Jordan Hembrough went hey, this is the rarest one. Let's pay you 500 and I'll put it on for 800.
Yes.
I think that kind of added to the validating okay, this is the Grail piece.
That's
and
the
I think
one.
he found a carded one too, didn't he? Or did he find? I don't think it was a loose one.
He bought a carded one there from an old lady.
Yeah.
But I've seen 3 on card and stuff together, people just have them I bought those discounted,
So basically it's just rarity, and because if you get Scratch, you have a chance to complete the run, whereas if you're collecting everything else and you leave Scratch for the end, you don't have a chance to complete the run because you're spending your money everywhere else. So.
Yeah, but it doesn't have that same mitt around it as the Wonder Bread He-Man.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's just numbers, honestly, a low production run, and
Yeah, because like even something like the close to equivalent, and the GI Joe people in the chat are going to tell me if I'm wrong here, but like the Argentina Argent 7 GI Joe stuff, that stuff goes well into the 4 digits, but they use the molds from the existing Joe figures, and then they create Argentina versions of them. Like Scarlet becomes Quarrel, and she's got a bunch of silver chrome on her, so she goes well into the 4 digits. She's at least, I don't even want to know, about a few years ago she was 1,500 US. I don't know, I even want to know what she is now. That was back when Scratch the Cat was not even at 1,000 yet, right? So like for me with Scratch, I'm just like, I don't know like, even if someone said, okay, I'll sell you Scratch the Cat for $500, right? Would I just take that just to resell, or would I actually stop and think, oh, there's a lot of lore and a lot of lure behind this character, right? I struggle with Scratch for that specific reason.
I don't think there's a lot of lore behind
Yeah.
it, because like even like the comic presentation wasn't like one-on-one with the actual toy, I believe.
The comic was I mean, he was part of the original inspiration was from the Uncanny Trio, wasn't it?
Yeah. But he, like, it wasn't a one-on-one thing with
Right.
with the thing, because like Playmates took a different spin with that. Like what you were saying about the Argentine GI Joe, it's like a foreign exclusive kind of thing, or like a variation done by that. What I don't know is, like, did Scratch actually come out across borders, or was it just USA? I've never seen like an international card of that one, actually, so he might just have been for US. But there's other examples like Superpowers. You have the, what is it, like the
Cyborg.
Riddler?
Oh, the Riddler. Okay.
Yeah, that came out only in Latin America, and he goes for a lot of money as well. So, but it's like a different thing. Like this was put out everywhere, like Scratch.
Right. Fair enough.
Lower run, but I mean, he was available. It's not like you have to go to a different country and come across it and pick it up as a kid. And
That's
bring
true.
it back
You
to
bring up a
America.
good point with distribution.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like
the other
you get
thing,
my
like
comparison,
Wonder
but it's a
Bread.
bit apples. Yeah.
Yeah, the Wonder Bread thing was kind of like a mail away thing. Like 1 + 1 = like a new toy that Mattel would send you. But this was just like it was put out there. And
so would you rather have a Chef Boyardee Shredder mail away or Scratch? I mean, if you're comparing the mail aways.
I passed on a Chef Boyardee mail away in the baggie for 100 euros.
Ooh, that man.
I was like, yeah, sure, it's a mail away. I'll find one. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Dumb. I'd probably like go for the Chef Boyardee. I prefer that one over Scratch because I'm not really into Scratch, anyways. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything for me.
Everyone's sleeping on. I mean, not sleeping, but like I feel like everyone just disrespects Scratch now because he's so expensive. I still think he's a very, very cool figure. You know, the stripes, you know, the tears, and just, you know, the cat burglar.
Yeah, but he doesn't have like the weird sculpting that, like, you know, like a Muckman or Dr. L, or like there's no extensive sculpting going on in this one.
I'd be interested to know if there was other stuff that like got cut though, because it was towards the end of the line there too.
Yeah.
You know, like because I've seen various artists. So I know there was different artists working on that sculpt, or working on the designs for it, I should say, probably, you know. But so I'd be interested to know if there was something that was supposed to be coming out that they had to scrap. They had to scratch.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I think, Shellback, when you asked us, a bunch of us, what our 3 holy grails for turtles were, I think I kind of just defaulted to Scratch as my third one, simply for the purpose of rarity and the story behind Toy Hunter finding him out in the wild, like Ed was saying. But when you really break down what Scratch is, right? You got it on card, looks so good, because you got that Turtles art. But like, and I know you're a bigger fan than the rest of us here are. People are kind of harping on Scratch just because he seems to be expensive for the sake of expensive. I understand it's still a grail, but it only has so much going for it. It's just kind of how I feel, right? So
true.
I would say though, I mean, like I feel like, you know, the Super 7 one will scratch my itch for it. You know, I mean, it's I am not
pre-order.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm super excited for the idea that I may eventually have this, this character, right? It's not to me. It doesn't need to be specifically in one version.
Yeah.
It's just the idea that I now have this character who I've always wanted to have there. Like, I mean, that's the thing with Turtle Saint was on there too for me, and it's like Turtle Saint never came here, so I would, when I kept looking for. I knew about it. I kept looking for it because I saw it in some of the shots, and I was like, could never find it anywhere. And so I'm like, now I realize as an adult why, because it never came.
Yeah.
But
you see those shredders that came in the same subline, those are insane.
Those are cool. Yeah. The Bebop and Rocksteady there from that line were some really cool designs. That is just like, yeah, I want those two. Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. It doesn't need to be the vintage for me. Would I prefer the vintage? Would I like to have the vintage? Yeah, but I mean, if it comes out, if Neca or Super 7 or whoever else makes them, and I'm like, I see those there, I'm like, those are getting in my way. I'm getting those.
I'm looking at my Wonder Bread He-Man over there from the Matty Collector, like Mattel Masters Universe Classics, and that's good enough for me because I like that scale. And a lot of people are scratching that itch. See what I did there with the Origins line right now, because that one scales with their vintage. So a lot of people want that particular way. So I see what you're saying entirely there.
Hey, Ed, I just had one question for you. I put out a video. I'm pretty high on them since we're talking about Holy Grails. How do you feel about the black belt storage shells?
I want them. Those are like my favorite subline. Not the black belt one, like the regular one.
Right.
Just storage.
But yeah, it would be cool to have just some. I have some of the weapons. I just don't have the actual action figures.
Okay.
I mean, it's just like oh, we need to put this out this year. Okay, well, here, what are the colors? Oh, just put black belts on them. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems like such an afterthought.
I think there wasn't like really any thought put into it apart from we have to push product out. And that was just one of the things, like, oh, let's switch a couple things around so it at least looks kind of new.
Yeah. Well, it's like some of those redecos too, right? We had the robotic Mikey, that was Metalhead. You had there's some pretty just like whoop, there you go. Here's a new character, and
we should have gotten the fluffy Razor though.
And the robotic Bebop. That thing looked cool too. I mean the Warrior Bebop.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the Forgotten Sewer stuff that started, right?
Well, they had the Warrior,
the robotic one.
They had the Warrior Rock
got
City,
like a red new paint scheme. Like,
it was like red and like gold.
Yeah.
They put out the Rock City, but they didn't put out the Bebop. That one would have been really cool. I'm thinking about making a custom one if I can ever find a cheap robotic Bebop, which probably won't happen. But
we need to assemble like the rare and the variants. I'd love for people to learn about that. Be like, here's the if I ever put out that try to research on that, I'll talk to you. I wanted
to do like a series on valuable variants, but I've not gotten to it yet.
Yeah, you're going to, or are you waiting for confirmation bias from the crowd? Because if it's Ed and it's Toy Histories, sign me up, right? So
I'd watch that.
I hate doing stuff on like money, but it would just be like, here's this toy, but if yours looks like this, it's the valuable variant.
And that's okay. Like, you don't have necessarily have to go into dollars,
because
right?
like if you wait 3 months, like your prices are off,
But that's what I was about to say, is that you just need to say it's well into the 4 digits, or it's pushing 5 digits if you have it on cards. All you really got to say, right? Because I try to watch Toy Hunter now. And it's like, you bought a figure for how much? And people said you were overpriced then. Now it's worth like 2.5 times the price.
Hunter stuff is like 12 years ago now.
That's right. So if you don't want your video to age, I would just say, be very general about it. Like, it's worth 5 times more than
I guess like the main takeaway is with the variants is there are lower production runs and they're rare. So
Yes.
it kind of concludes to, if there is demand for it, they'll go for more than the original one.
Right. So the consensus is I should stop pricing my figures off of my old Toy Fair magazines. That's what
Yeah.
And we should
Even
grab
Mark Malone
some.
was
We should
fun.
grab some of these and go like, "Can you honor these prices?"
I want to see that book. I'm gonna put you up on solo that. I want to see that book.
So
let me
Action Figure
grab,
Insider, is that is? Or Toy, yeah, it's for review.
Is there anything in here we could use? This just has baseball stuff in it.
All right. Go
But
Dodgers.
yeah, I mean, there's
That was a big thing.
Indiana Jones stuff. I don't know if you can.
Oh, I mean, it's so much fun to look at that and just to see the lines that existed too, because we forget some of those as well.
Yeah.
But just like I had one earlier, but I don't know which one it is. But it had turtles in it, and it would say like, or like it had like Thundercats in it, and the Bengali on card. Oh, it goes for $10.
Oh, yeah, back then. and that's
like
with the weapon.
In like 93. Oh, if you have it on card of Bengali, that's $10. Like a week ago, 7. I'm like, can you honor these prices, please?
Is there much of a repro problem with accessories with turtles? Like, I don't see it as much.
Maybe we haven't figured it out yet that they're repro.
Oh, maybe that's what
They're
it is.
so good.
You see the battle in Star Wars all the time. You see a smaller battle with G.I. Joe and an even smaller battle with Transformers. But with Turtles, I realized I don't really talk repro with anybody. But I'm also not the biggest Turtles guy. So
Yeah.
I figured that was a good question for the panel here. Yeah.
If it has chew marks, it's probably vintage.
Hey, that's how you know it's real. You gotta taste them.
Chew on it.
Hey, have you guys had any recent pickups? Anything cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I had I found, speaking of the 2007 series, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know. I just got, let's see, I'll bring it up. It's close. Can you see it? I got a couple those right there, the Leo and the Raph, I think, from the 2007 series. And then I don't know, so good. Yeah, when you put me on the single one, I can see it too. Like, that's too small. I am old, and my eyes are going. Yeah, and I got that one on the far left there too with the Raph, prehistoric Raph. I just have never seen that before, so I was like, I don't know if there's anything, but I'm getting it. So I still don't know if it's anything.
No, fair enough.
I know it's fun, and I like the way it looks.
Love
So,
that
yeah.
duck you got there. I actually picked up this stuff. This is like I probably say it wrong, but Giocchi is like the Italian distributor for like Mattel stuff and Playmates, and these are just like blow up turtles like this. And I actually managed to get all 4, but there's a little thing wrong with one of them. So here's Leo. Got Donnie, Michelangelo, and then there's Raph.
Whoa!
What happened?
Oh, that's
The coolest
amazing.
Whoa.
But then apparently, like they put him out like that, all 4 as well. So I'm looking at like 4 more I need to find and source, because what is this? Even? like it's like did he get punched in the face or?
That is amazing. I love that.
Yeah. I was like this is a great story. I need to have it.
So cool. I wish I could find more foreign stuff.
Yeah. Well, I got a question with regards to chew marks then. So is this repro?
What is that?
I'm trying to see what it is.
Rocket
Is it Boba?
firing one. No, I think that's a real one. I think that's a real. Yeah.
So
there.
So put chew marks on is what you're saying?
Yeah. If the gun has chew marks on it, it's probably real. Yeah.
It's from Pro Customs, but just back to the repro comment.
Does it work? Is it really rocket firing?
Firing.
Ah!
Whoa!
Okay.
To be fair,
I'm gonna go. You gents talk. I'm gonna go retrieve the rocket.
Right? I was saying, to be fair though, it would not work, right? I mean, if it was an actual, wasn't there a firing mechanism issue with the original, where that's why
well,
Yeah,
they
they
tried
went
different
someone's
stuff. They
nose or
tried like
something.
the S shape and the L shape, and like there's like 27 different ones. Yeah. But they never produced it, I think.
Wow. Okay. Well, what a fun time, gentlemen. Oh, what's he showing us here? Wait, I gotta see this. I gotta see this. Whatever it is. Oh,
Got
okay. I can see it now.
working on my Universal Monsters. Got my Mutant Raft pink accessories. Pretty nice card. Since it is almost Halloween time. Got a few. This is the first series. That's the reason why I was asking if you guys had any recent pickups, because I just wanted to show those off. You know, no big deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I might do a live unboxing. I'm not sure yet of my Super 7 shredder, because I got some other stuff there too. I thought I was getting the one with the silver trim, but I ended up getting like the regular colors one with the alternate head with the like eyebrow line. So I don't know, just really excited about some of this stuff. Gentlemen, we're just about to push the hour and a half mark here, which takes us almost to time. But has anybody got any closing remarks, any last things to show, anything they want to tell us what they're doing on their channel, whatever it is?
I just want to point out that Ed said 5 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
I was really singing around like a half hour ago.
I'm not complaining. None of us are.
So Ed, you probably should start. I know you gotta get rolling here. So
Yeah. So I got videos coming out. I'll upload one in like a couple hours.
Nice.
I'm working on new toy history. I'm working on a crazy behind the collector, which is going to get some kind of a story attached to it, because in October, I'll be heading back to the USA. And I'm also going to head into Mexico for some toy hunting.
Ooh.
So that's going to be fun. I'm going to be joining, I hope I'm saying his name right, Raul El Pelon. He's like a pretty cool collector. We shot the behind the collector over at his. He does his channel in Spanish, and he's gonna bring us along to Mexico to go and check out those toy markets over there. So that's gonna be a fun experience. Then we're doing Retropalooza in Arlington, Texas. We're gonna be guesting there next to Pixel Dan and everything. I
saw you on the poster. Yeah,
we have a horror movie that I got a couple parts in. Greco got some in, and Narc is playing a big role in, which is called Retro Freaks. We're doing a premiere for that. So lots of stuff happening in October, and can't wait to push out more toy histories after all that stuff. So that's what I got going.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So
toy histories,
a lot of free time.
Go for it, Shellback.
Not really.
You're probably touring with the isn't it cool to be like a YouTube guest somewhere, Ed? Like you're there and Pixel Dan is there. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's surreal. Being able to get like added into it. But I was gonna go there anyway. So I mean, like they didn't have to ask, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe I'll ask you what it's like being a YouTube guest, maybe when the stream is over at some point, like what they actually ask you to do, whether it's a panel or what, but be interesting to find out. So yeah. Shellback, what do you got coming up?
Well, I wish I had as much stuff going on as Ed up there, but just working on some videos, TMNT videos. I'm actually working on one that's going to be basically going year by year of the toy line, like the good, the bad, and the WTF of the toy line. The good, the zaniness, and like, what the heck were they thinking with this one? So that should be a pretty in-depth video for that one coming up.
Good stuff. Ethan?
what? Mr. Geeky. I have.
I'm sure that's what the E stands for. So.
Well, I got a video coming out soon that you probably, the three of you at least, know about because you're in it. That'll be probably the next thing that's coming out. I've got a handful of interviews. Got one coming up with Brian Flynn.
Oh wow!
New one with Trevor from NECA. Nomi Kane over at Super 7. Augie Piers over at Super 7, and another one from Mondo. And then Blake Wright from Toy Collector Magazine and the Toys That Time Forgot. And handful of deep dives as well. So we got the next episode of the Turtles, and we got Thundercats, which you got a tease of in this. And then I was also in a horror movie. That's so funny, Ed. With the guys who did The Room, the movie The Room. So this is, and that's out now to stream for free over on Tubi. So if you ever wanted to see me as horribly acting, then you can. It's schlocky as heck. It's fun. But that's called Miracle Valley. We're on Tubi.
That's the name. It's called Miracle Valley.
Miracle Valley.
I've got my Tubi app literally open right now, so I'm going to Miracle Valley, and there's Miracle in the Valley, so I think it's Miracle Valley. It's this one, right? Oh, what's going on here? What the hell?
It's got like a skull on the front. That's it. I play Jed or Judd. They never actually call me by my name in the movie, and so I'm one of those two. That's how it comes up on IMDb. But yeah,
that's amazing. That's freaking amazing. Well, cool, gentlemen. This has been. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I forgot. Next week, I also officially am co-hosting as a regular on Turtle Talk with Dave Wonder. That's
I saw that.
Okay. Yes, I did. I did see that as well. So perfect. So check out Turtle Talk.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
Very much so. So the link to the channels for the three gentlemen here is all in the description section below. I can see everyone in the chat seems to have an epic time. The guys on screen had an epic time. Look, happy to talk to you folks anytime, any day of the week. I'll get up at whatever hour in the morning, whatever. I just won't have time to put any product in my hair or turn the lights on behind me, but whatever. You know, worst case scenario, you'll talk to me and I'll be like this, right? So worst case scenario, right? All right, everyone, enjoy your toys. Check out these gentlemen's channel, and we'll see you all again next time with some more Toy Talk.